Are you a free spirit who goes about life with no real plan? Are you consistently underestimated because of your wimpy appearance? Do you have a zest for violence? If you answered yes to all of these questions, then you are an American Coot. I hope you're ready to rumble! Coots are members of the rail family, being the most widespread rail representative in North America. Within the Rylidae family, Coots are like the weird cousins that no one wants to sit next to at Thanksgiving, as their bold personalities and aquatic lifestyles put them in stark contrast with the shy, land-dwelling species that make up most of the rail family. Coots, often referred to as mud hens, have always been hunted in large numbers, but their populations have historically rebounded well following hunting pressure. Another thing that helps their case is the fact that they taste like an old shoe. However, this gnarly taste doesn't stop them from being killed, as many hunters cannot resist target practice on a slow-moving, clumsy coot. Although hunting pressures are not what they once were on coot populations, hundreds of thousands are still killed annually, with more than 500,000 slain in Louisiana alone in 1999. American Coots are very distinctive throughout their range, so they are unlikely to be mistaken for anything else if viewed in good conditions. They are monomorphic, and although males are slightly larger than females, it is impossible to detect this difference in the field. Coots have black heads and necks, while their bodies are a slate gray color. Their white bills stand out against their dark faces, and their red eyes are a characteristic that betrays their sinister personalities. However, the most intriguing feature of Coots are their lobed feet, an attribute that only a few other birds possess. Their fascinating feet propel them through water while allowing them to walk on land with an ease that would make any duck jealous. Baby Coots have bright red heads and yellow down feathers around their necks. Alas, these bright colors don't last long, as juvenile Coots soon become ashy gray until they adopt the plumage of an adult after a few months. Upon first glance, Coots are clumsy and awkward birds. However, spend any considerable amount of time watching them, and you'll soon discover that Coots go full Francis mode around other birds. Yes, there are few birds that a Coot won't confront, and this aggressive nature has not garnered them much fanfare. American Coots are known as kleptoparasites, meaning they may steal food from other birds such as ducks or gulls. Coots regularly chase off ducks, grebes, and songbirds that intrude on their territories, but fights between Coots are the most ferocious. The start of the breeding season, when Coots try to establish territories, sees the most intense fighting. With the stakes so high, combative Coots regularly peck and kick their neighbors, and it's not uncommon for them to try to drown their enemies. Hearing the splashing and antagonistic calls of a squabble is like a beacon for Coots. With neighboring birds attracted to the fight, scuffles can even get so intense and involve so many birds that some Coots accidentally maul their own mates. When they're not trying to kill each other during the breeding season, Coots are very social, forming sizable groups with other Coots during winter and migration. The goofy nature of mud hens is on full display during the non-breeding season. Seeing a Coot swim out in the open is an amusing sight, as they pump their head back and forth when they chug through the water. Despite their ungainly appearances, they are skilled in the water, diving underwater to find food or pecking it from the surface. Coots are fed small animals during their first week of life, but they soon adopt a vegetarian diet of grasses, grains, and seeds. They are just as comfortable finding food on land. Here, large groups may graze grass like cattle. Look for Coots in just about any aquatic habitat imaginable except fast-flowing rivers and oceans. Just like swans and loons, Coots need a running start to get airborne. However, once in the air, their flight is strong and steadfast. Although their flight is direct, they are not good at changing directions, causing many to collide with buildings or other obstacles during their nocturnal migrations. A 1948 account mentioned a Coot flying through the window of a hotel room only to collide with the wall on the far side of the room and die. Coots have little rhyme or reason to their migratory tendencies, showing little fidelity to breeding locations. Generally, female Coots winter further south than males. American Coots are monogamous birds that rarely engage in extra-pair copulations. This is not because they are more virtuous than most birds. Rather, most attempts at extra-pair copulations are swiftly put to an end thanks to the territorial nature of Coots. These resolute rails are not choosy when it comes to selecting a breeding habitat, as any body of water with tall aquatic vegetation like cattails and bulrushes will do. Here, Coots look for love, and when they find that special someone, it's time for billing, bowing, and nibbling, the three elements of Coot courtship. First is billing. No, this is not a process by which coots send invoices to one another. Rather, billing involves two lovebirds touching one another's bills. Bowing comes next. This is done by the submissive bird in the relationship, and it involves bowing the head and showing off vulnerable areas like the neck to their prospective mate. Last is nibbling, a process in which the dominant bird nibbles through the feathers of the submissive bird. Once a coot couple has solidified their bond with one another, it's time to build a nest. Coots construct a floating platform nest made of aquatic plants and dense vegetation. Such a nest is very safe compared to most other bird nests, allowing them to have exceptional success with hatching their eggs. The downside to having a floating nest made of plants is that it requires substantial upkeep. Parents must constantly add new materials to the nest to keep it afloat, as they degrade the nest every time they enter or exit the structure. Without intervention from the parents, a nest would fall apart in as little as 2 days. Anywhere from 6 to 12 eggs are laid per clutch, and coots may have 2 clutches per breeding season. Both parents incubate the eggs, but it is the female who constructs most of the nest. Baby coots are precocial, being able to swim and walk within a few hours of hatching. Once hatched, the parents will chauffeur their babies around in a small area near their nest that gradually gets larger as the young age. Coots are good parents, even making small floating platforms for the young to sleep on at night. The babies can fend for themselves entirely by the time they're 3 weeks old, but this doesn't stop them from continuing to beg for food from their parents anyway. The mini mud hens are kicked out of their parents' territory after they're 80 days old. The American coot has 2 subspecies. First is the wide-ranging American subspecies, whose distribution spans from Alaska to Costa Rica. Many in this subspecies are migratory, breeding in the prairie pothole region of southern Canada and the upper Midwest, and wintering in large numbers along the coasts of Texas, Louisiana, and South Carolina. Although the Colombian subspecies scarcely looks dissimilar from the American subspecies, its habits are completely different, as it is non-migratory and found only in a small sliver of land in the Andes Mountains of Colombia. Overall, the American coot population totals around 3 million birds. Their numbers have diminished substantially from a few centuries ago following major habitat loss, but the population has since stabilized. Habitat loss is likely the biggest threat that this species faces, as they seem resilient to hunting pressures. In any case, the American coot looks to prosper for centuries to come.